Welcome back. Now we're going to be looking at National Socialism and the economy and the policies. The first part looks at the framework for the economic policies, and then we'll start looking at the various stages of economic policies, and then there'll be some analysis and looking at the impacts of the economic policies. Your learning outcomes are basically to understand the underlying motivations for the policies implemented, the stages of economic policy and planning, the impacts of those policies on the populations, and the results. So here we're going to be looking at the framework of the economic policies. It's important to understand what the goals were in order to be able to assess the effectiveness and the results. So, one of the things, of course, if you remember when we look back at ideology, there was no economic policy integrated in the ideology. It was very much about governing and race and nationalism, but no idea as to how to direct the economy. And so Hitler's goals for Germany's world position is going to influence the economic policies. The goal was to become a more powerful country within Europe, and the policies are going to reflect that. Autarky is really important. We've spoken about autarky before, and it often is an integral part of nationalism and really fascism. The idea that the country needs to be self-sufficient and strong, and that way they're better able to withstand what happens internationally. And so this means by achieving autarky, Germany would be able to maintain greater influence in Europe. That means that it's part of that whole neo-mercantilism that we've spoken about in the past. And of course, Germany wants to expand into the eastern lands. Therefore, the domestic economy would need to be able to support military spending and would need to be able to provide the arms, the material, and the workers needed for Germany to wage war and occupy lands. And of course, in order for this to happen, you're going to need the support of the people, so you couldn't lower their living standards. Hitler took over an economically blighted country, and people gave the Nazis support because they presented an image and propagandized that they would be able to fix these issues. So because they took over a politically and economically unstable country, they had to ensure economic stability so as to ensure political stability under their rule. And so, according to the 1925 points, they could have followed two strands. But Hitler rejected socialism, and you should be able to explain why socialism was rejected. And he also rejected the demands for the Second Revolution that was placed by people like Rome, who wanted to nationalize everything and bring everything under government control. So one of the things is that Hitler does not try to restore Germany's colonial empire. And because maintaining a colonial empire is incredibly expensive. He recognized the western borders of Germany. So the attempt wasn't to try to take over Western Europe. However, Eastern Europe was vulnerable. And within his ideology, there's the policy of Lebensraum. That is gaining additional territory for living space. And this additional territory for living space was the underlying principle of the economic policies. In order to have a strong population, in order to have a strong economy, then additional living space was going to be needed. Hence the expansion into the east. And together, by expanding into the east, they would be able to create new communities that would provide for raw materials and would provide farmland to produce food. And then, of course, we have new communities that are markets for the manufactured goods. So the idea, it's kind of circular in a way. You need more Lebensraum in order to house your population and to have a strong economy. And you need a strong economy in order to allow you to get the Lebensraum. And so he recognized that expanding into the east would result in conflict and war. But remember, he saw the German people as being better adapted, right, the social Darwinism, than the Slavic people to his east.